Story 1. I was around 16 when this happened, back when I still thought nothing could hurt me. I lived in a quiet town in New Zealand, just far enough from the cities that people still shared ghost stories as if they mattered. One place always came up, the old asylum in the valley. It had been closed for decades, officially due to budget cuts, abuse and scandals, but locals whispered about things that didn't make the papers. Patients vanishing. Strange lights in the windows long after it was shut. Screams at night that couldn't be explained. Of course, we didn't believe any of it. My friends and I just thought it was the perfect place for a bit of mischief and exploration. We were bored teenagers. That was enough. There was even a pool, as some organizations still used it for disabled programs. Weird, considering everything else had been sealed off. But the creepiest part? A strange old man who still lived up there, supposedly acting as a caretaker. Everyone in town knew what he looked like. Long white beard. Wore the same dusty overalls every day. Never spoke unless he had to. We made a plan. 4 of us would go up, 1 would stay behind near the base of the valley with the bikes. He'd text us if the caretaker or anyone else came snooping. Just a bit of fun, we thought. The feeling started as soon as we left the main road. The air in the valley didn't feel right. It was too still. Too cold even for the season. I pushed it down, chalked it up to nerves and excitement, but I couldn't shake the sense that we were being watched. When we reached the main building, my strong friend yanked some boards off a door frame and we stepped inside. The place was wrecked. Walls split open, old beds and restraints rusting in the corners, and graffiti from years of teenage visits. But one thing stood out. There was this room where, suddenly, no one had cell phone reception just in that one spot. Step a few feet in either direction and it came back. We laughed it off, didn't think too much of it. That changed when I got a bing on my phone. It was the lookout. The caretaker had found him and claimed the cops had been called. We bolted, ran behind the asylum into the thick brush, and hid in the hills above. That creeping sensation I'd had earlier? It was stronger now. Like something unseen had moved with us into the forest. I rechecked my phone. No signal. Not even a flicker. For 15 minutes we crouched in silence. No sirens. No police. Just wind through dead branches. That's when we made a new plan. Cross into the next valley, circle, and walk home from the far side. Safer than going back the way we came. We hadn't walked far when we found it. Half buried in the hillside was a structure we hadn't seen before. Like a roof jutting out from the earth, the rest of the building is completely underground. No doors, no windows. Just a single rusted latch on top. We had to know what it was. The hatch wouldn't budge, so we tore away at the corrugated metal until a hole opened up. Below us was blackness. No stairs. No ladder. Just concrete and shadows. We drew straws. I didn't lose. My friend lowered himself in and fell hard, twisting his ankle. We called out, waiting. Then his flashlight clicked on, cutting through the dark. 2 rooms. Bare concrete walls. A chair. A small cot. Magazines from the 1960s. And cans of food, opened and rotted. My friend's voice came up from below, unsteady. Then he screamed. Not from pain. From something else. Something worse. He shouted, "What the fuck is this?" And then something flew up through the hole and hit the ground next to me. A human skull. He swore there were more. Bones. Scraps of clothing. No doors. No exits. Just that room. We yanked him up as fast as we could. And just as we did, a thick branch snapped nearby, too clean to be natural. Someone was up there. I told them, we need to go. Now. We climbed out of the woods, across open farmland. I was in the back of our single-file line when I felt a hand clamp down on my shoulder. I turned. A man was standing behind me. Full camouflage gear. The old rifle aimed right between my eyes. He wasn't the caretaker. I'd never seen him before. But something was wrong with his face, like it was stuck in a grin that didn't belong on a living person. He said nothing at first. Then, "What are you doing here?" We tried to lie. Said we were just shooting BB guns and messing around. His eyes narrowed. "Don't lie to me. I've been watching you since you dropped your bikes. Who sent you? What were you doing at the shed?" We didn't know what to say, but my strong friend had had enough. He lunged and wrestled the rifle from the guy's grip. It clattered down the hill. We ran. But not before the man shouted after us, "If you tell anyone what you saw, you're dead. I know your names. And he's waiting for you by the bikes." We didn't know what he meant until we got back on the road. The old caretaker was there, just standing by our bikes. No police in sight. No friend. He smiled when he saw us. "If we ever see any of you again," he said, "you won't be leaving next time. And if you talk, I'll know." We asked him what he did with our friend. He just laughed. Said he ran off. Probably with the cops at the gate. We eventually found our friend just down the road, pale and shaken. He told us the old man had pulled a gun on him too. But there were never any cops. No sirens. Nothing. And a few years later, the whole asylum mysteriously burned to the ground. No investigation. No news reports. Just gone. I still think about what we found under that hillside. That room with no door. That skull. It felt more like a prison than a shelter. I still think about what we found under that hillside. That room with no door. That skull. It felt more like a prison than a shelter. But the part that gets me? I saw the old caretaker again. Years later. At the supermarket. He didn't say a word. Just stared at me. And smiled. Story 2. I never thought I'd end up telling a story like this. Hell, I didn't even believe in ghosts before that night. But now, after what I went through inside the Danvers State Hospital, an asylum that closed its doors for good in 1992, I'm not so sure what's real anymore. Growing up near Salem, Massachusetts, Danvers was always there in the background, this huge, looming structure sitting on a hilltop, its cracked windows staring down at the town like dark, unblinking eyes. Local legends and rumors swirled about it, but I never took them seriously. It was just an old abandoned hospital. But curiosity has a way of pulling you in even when you know better. That summer night started like any other. I was out with a couple of friends, 3 typical teenagers daring each other to do stupid stuff. We'd heard the usual stories, strange noises, shadow figures, cold spots. We wanted to see if any of it was true. We found a broken window on the east side and slipped inside. The moment I stepped through that jagged hole in the wall, I felt the air change. The temperature dropped sharply, a cold so intense it grabbed at my skin and sank deep into my bones. It wasn't the kind of cold you get from an air conditioner. It was the kind that settles into your soul. We flicked on our flashlights and cautiously moved through the main hall. The place smelled of damp concrete, mold, and something else. Something rotten, almost metallic. Our footsteps echoed endlessly on the cracked tile floors, but beyond that, there was a deafening silence. We headed toward the east wing, where the old patient wards were said to be. That's when I heard it, soft whispering, almost too faint to catch at first. I stopped and looked around, heart hammering. The voices didn't sound like wind. They sounded like desperate, broken people calling out from the dark. "Did you hear that?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. My friends shook their heads, telling me it was probably just the wind playing tricks, but I wasn't so sure. The whispers grew louder as we moved forward, seeming to seep out of the walls themselves. We found a padded cell at the end of the hallway. The door hung by one hinge, the thick, stained padding cracked and torn. The whispers were coming from inside. I forced myself closer. The cold inside the cell was unbearable, like stepping into a freezer. My breath came out in heavy fog. That's when I saw it, a shadow darting just inside the doorway. I spun around, but no one was there. Panic started to rise in my chest. Suddenly, I felt it, a cold hand brushing against my arm. I jerked away, heart racing. I called out to my friends, but they were frozen in place, eyes wide with fear. We bolted for the exit, but as we turned the corner, I caught sight of something on the dusty floor, a spiral drawn in the dirt, almost glowing faintly. I didn't want to look back, but I did. The shadows seemed to ripple and twist like smoke. That night changed me. I don't know what I saw or what those whispers wanted, but Danvers still holds onto its secrets. Story 3. I grew up in California. Downey to be exact. And like a lot of small-town teens with too much time and not enough sense, my friends and I spent our weekends looking for places we weren't supposed to be. Old rooftops, storm drains, half-collapsed warehouses. You name it, we probably poked around in it. But there was one place we all knew about, and most people, especially the locals, made a point of avoiding. The abandoned insane asylum off the 105, sitting just behind the courthouse and police station. It had been shut down years before, condemned and left to rot. The official reason was asbestos and structural damage. Still, everyone in town knew the real reason had less to do with architecture and more to do with what people whispered about. Mistreatment of patients, mysterious disappearances, a history that stretched back to when it was still a military hospital. Some even claimed there were catacombs beneath the building. Whether that part was true or not, I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, 2 years ago when I was 17, my buddy Jonah got a group of 10 friends together. It was a Saturday night and we were bored. Stupid kind of bored. So we decided, screw it, let's check out the asylum. We drove out to Downey just after dark. As we got closer, the neighborhoods grew noticeably sketchier, with boarded windows, vacant lots. and that kind of hollow silence you only really notice once you're listening for it. After about 45 minutes, we pulled up to the rusted chain-link fence surrounding the asylum. Someone had already cut a hole in it. That was our entry. Inside, it looked just how you'd expect. Graffiti everywhere, broken furniture strewn across the rooms, papers fluttering across the floor like dead leaves. We kicked one aside and noticed a patient file. Jonah picked it up, squinted, and froze. "Mickey," he said. "That's my dad's name." He tried to laugh it off, but something about it stuck with me. We kept moving, exploring room after room with our flashlights sweeping through the dark. The halls were wide and echoey like an old hospital, but with this weird dampness in the air. Everything smelled like mold and rust and something sour like dried blood left in the heat. That's when we saw them. As we turned a corner, our flashlight lit up another group for kids maybe our age. They were just standing there waiting like they'd known we'd be coming. None of them said anything for a few seconds. Then one of them, pale and jittery, stepped forward and asked, "You guys been to the slide yet?" We looked at each other. "The what?" "The slide," he repeated like we were idiots for not knowing. "You should come." We passed on the offer. Something about them felt off, the way they kept glancing around, how their smiles didn't match their eyes. Then just before they left, one of them pulled out a huge Bowie knife. "Cool find, right?" he said, moving it a little too close to my face. We all gave those nervous laughs you do when you're trying not to escalate something. They walked off down the hallway, but from that point on, it felt like the air was thicker. I pulled Jonah aside and said we needed to get out. Not soon now. The whole building felt wrong. And the last thing I wanted was to run into another group of cult wannabes with knives. We made our way to the roof, thinking we'd plot an exit that wouldn't get us caught by the security station near the front. From up there, we could see the squad car parked silently behind the main gate. Lights off. Waiting. We knew that if we triggered anything, that would be our only barrier to jail time. Jonah spotted a fire escape coming down from a higher section of the roof. We figured that was our best bet. He climbed up first with the help of a ladder, then turned to help the rest of us up. I was halfway over the ledge when I froze. "Jonah," I whispered, "did you not see this when you got up here?" He looked confused. Then he turned. Right there, not less than 20 feet away, were about 15 people, dressed in ragged, hooded robes, sitting in a circle. At the center of the circle, a cat, or what used to be a cat, its body limp, burning, giving off this horrid, oily stench. The flames made their faces flicker in and out of view. They weren't saying words, just guttural sounds, low chants like they were trying to call something. And when we moved, they heard us. One of them turned. Then another. Then all 15 stood up, slowly at first. Then they started running, not just chasing, charging like they'd been waiting for this moment all night. We bolted. I screamed for everyone to ditch the ladder and forget the fire escape. Cops or no cops, we had to go. We ran back through the upper floors, the whole building echoing with the sound of feet slamming against concrete and those chants, faster now, higher-pitched, frenzied. We burst through a side exit and tore across the backfield toward the fence. I could hear them right behind us, and for a second I thought this was it. I honestly thought they were going to grab one of us, drag us back into the building. But then we saw it, red and blue lights flashing. The cop at the gate had seen the commotion and was speeding toward the chaos, sirens wailing. He veered the cruiser right between the group chasing and us, scattering them like crows. We didn't wait to see what happened next. We jumped the fence, dove into the car, and peeled out of Downey like hell was on our heels. We didn't talk much on the way back. Everyone was too shaken. Jonah's hands were still shaking on the wheel. When we got back to his place, he pulled me aside and said, "Man, that wasn't some prank. That wasn't some homeless gathering or drug thing. That was a ritual." He wasn't wrong. I still think about the way they moved. Like they weren't surprised we were there, like they wanted us to see. A few days later, he told me he kept thinking about that patient file, the one with his dad's name. He said it didn't feel like a coincidence, more like a message. I don't know who those people were or what they were doing. Maybe they were squatters playing cult. Perhaps they were something worse. But what gets me? The cop never followed up with us. No one questioned us. No one investigated. It was like the whole thing never happened. And that building? It's still there. Still condemned. Still rotting in plain sight. But now I get why most people from Downey avoid it. Before we dive into the next story, if you're here for the first time, make sure to subscribe to our channel and tap the bell icon so you never miss a chilling tale. We rely on your support to keep bringing you true, terrifying stories, so please share these videos with your friends and family. Thanks for being here. Now let's continue. Story 4. I never thought I'd end up inside Penhest. Maybe it was curiosity or a quest to show that girl you like how strong and fearless you can be. But when you live just 30 minutes from one of the most notorious abandoned asylums in America, it's almost impossible not to hear the stories about the screams, the shadowy figures, the inexplicable noises that still haunt those crumbling halls. Penhest shut down in 1987, yet its decaying walls seem to hold onto the past with a vice grip, as if the spirits of the thousands of patients who once lived there refused to let go. I was 23 the night I went in. This is my story. It was early spring, March 2019, when a group of 4 decided to explore Penhest. I didn't know much about the asylum before that night, only bits and pieces from internet forums and local legends. It was originally opened in 1908 as a state-of-the-art institution for the mentally ill, but over the decades reports of neglect, abuse and inhumane treatment piled up. Patients were forgotten, locked away for decades, and many died without anyone knowing. When it closed in '87, the grounds were left to rot. The place looks like a ghost town, overgrown with vines snaking up the cracked stone walls. Windows are shattered or boarded up. But there's an undeniable draw to it, like the building itself is calling out. We entered through a gap in a chain-link fence near the rear loading docks. My friend Emily led the way. She'd been here before and was obsessed with urban exploring. I followed behind, flashlight in hand, trying not to think about what we were about to do. The air was sharp and cold, still holding on to winter's chill. The main hallway was cavernous, filled with peeling paint, scattered debris, and the faint smell of mildew. Our footsteps echoed eerily as we moved deeper into the building. The silence was almost oppressive, broken only by the occasional drip of water from a leaky pipe. We made our way toward the west wing, where a section of the asylum had been sealed off after the 1970s due to hazardous conditions. Most urban explorers avoided this area, which was known as the isolation wing. I'd heard whispers about what went on there. Locked rooms, solitary confinement, the use of restraints that left physical and emotional scars. As we approached, I felt a strange pressure in my chest. I told myself it was nerves. But it was more than that, it's a heavyweight. We found a heavy metal door marked, Isolation Wing, authorized personnel only. It was rusted but surprisingly intact. Emily pulled out a crowbar and with some effort we managed to pry it open just enough to slip inside. The air inside was colder, denser. The flashlight beam struggled against the thick shadows. The floor was littered with broken tiles and fragments of old medical equipment. On the far wall, I noticed something chilling. Scratch marks, deep and frantic as if someone had tried desperately to claw their way out. As we moved further, the atmosphere grew heavier. I felt a faint buzzing in my ears, like a low hum just beneath hearing range. The temperature dropped even more. I could see my breath fogging in front of me. Suddenly, I heard it, a faint whisper just on the edge of hearing. I froze, heart pounding. The others stopped too. The whispering grew into a chorus of fragmented voices, overlapping and unintelligible but desperate. "Help me, please, don't forget." I spun around, trying to locate the source, but there was nothing but shadows. Emily shone her light down a narrow corridor lined with small rooms, each with a heavy metal door. One door at the end was slightly ajar, and from inside came a cold draft that seemed to push against us. We moved closer. Inside the room was a small, stained and worn cot. Scattered on the floor were torn scraps of paper, yellowed with age. I picked one up, and on it was a crudely drawn figure, a face twisted in anguish. As I looked up, my flashlight caught a pale figure out of the corner of my eye, standing just beyond the doorway. I blinked and it vanished. Panic surged through me, but I tried to stay calm. We backed out of the room slowly, but the door slammed shut behind us with a deafening bang. "Did you guys hear that?" Emily whispered. Before anyone could answer, the buzzing in my ears turned to a high-pitched ringing. My vision blurred. I stumbled, gripping the wall for support. When my eyes cleared, I saw a figure approaching, an elderly woman in a faded hospital gown, her eyes hollow and sad. She reached out her hand and I felt a cold chill run through my body. Her voice was barely audible. "Remember us?" We didn't wait to see more. The door to the isolation wing was stuck, and it took all of us pushing together to force it open. Once outside, we began to exhale rapidly, releasing the tension that had been building inside. We didn't speak much on the way back to the car. The night air felt lighter, but none of us could shake the feeling that we'd left something behind, or that something had followed us out. Story 5. I didn't know anything about Wollstone Park the first time I went. Not its history, not the rumors, not the trauma soaked into its walls. It was just an old asylum in Queensland, and I was tagging along with friends on a late-night urban exploration run, what we called urbex. Back then, the building hadn't been gutted yet. The place was still intact, with baths, rusting wheelchairs, scattered patient files as if it had just been left behind in a hurry. We were sitting in the courtyard, laughing, talking, when I looked up at one of the boarded windows and saw her. A girl. Ragged. Pale. Dressed in a torn white gown. She didn't move. Just watched. I remember blinking, thinking it had to be a trick of the light or my imagination. But everyone else was joking around and none of them noticed. I never forgot her. And she would come back again, many times. We got inside, took photos, and poked around. It felt weird, sure, but not threatening until we got to what's known as the lunatics ward. The boards there were different. Heavy, bolted, not just nailed like the others. Like someone wanted whatever was in there to stay in. We couldn't get inside, so we listened. Screams. Muffled voices. And then the air near the door started to heat up, unnaturally, aggressively hot, like something was burning just beyond it. That's when we ran. A week later, a friend of mine went back, this time with a different group. They managed to get inside the lunatics ward. It started the same, laughing, exploring, but then they split up. He was in one room, the girls in another. Then he heard them scream. They bolted toward him, white-faced and shaking. They told him they'd heard a man's voice, deep, loud, furious. Then something else. A growl. Low and guttural, as if it were coming from the walls. It followed them the entire way out. 30 seconds of unrelenting rage, chasing them down the corridors. The girls were so shaken, they all slept in the same bed that night at his house. Nothing happened after, but they swore that whatever it was, it came home with them. They just felt watched. Haunted. Months later, I went back again, this time with a close friend. By then, I'd heard the rumors. Patients raped, pregnancies terminated, babies disposed of in unmarked graves behind the facility. People say the remains are still out there somewhere. Forgotten. Lost. We were standing in that garden when I got this static chill in certain spots. My skin prickled. My gut twisted. Something was beneath us. I just knew it. If I had a shovel, I honestly believe I would have found bones. Inside, it felt worse than ever. I made a joke, something stupid, about a puddle on the stairs that looked like blood. But as we climbed, we heard footsteps on the landing to our right, the bathroom. In the same place I saw the girl during my first visit. There are no floorboards up there anymore. You'd be able to see anyone standing above you from the ground floor. But no one was visible. We left in a rush. And that's when we saw it. Blood. Smeared down the stairs in handprint patterns, like someone had been dragged. It led to the front door. We had only made it to the top step. Whoever or whatever made those marks had done it behind us. Or worse, alongside us. When we reached the car, we checked ourselves. My friend had blood on her. Not a lot. Just enough to know it wasn't hers. The car? Same thing. Smears across the door. But what chilled me the most was the ride home. I saw something in the rearview mirror. A charred man. Burnt. Staring. I wouldn't turn around. I couldn't. I just said something like, "Leave us alone." I don't remember my exact words. But I meant them. When I finally found the courage to look, the seat was empty. I can't say for sure, but I've always wondered, was it connected to the heat radiating from that ward door on our first visit? The next time I returned, I was with a ghost hunting group. A bunch of paranormal nerds with EVPs, temperature meters, you name it. They were provoking the spirits and saying things they shouldn't have. I wasn't comfortable. I walked off, dragging a friend with me, one who hadn't let go of my hand the entire time. We ended up in that same bathroom again, the one where I saw the girl. I told him what I'd seen years ago, pointing through the boarded-up window to where I'd sat in the courtyard. He got quiet. Told me he felt cold. Then he jerked away from me hard. He swore I'd touched his lower back. We were holding hands. There was no way I could have done it, but something had. We left. I never heard from that team again. Over the years, I've dug deep and tried to find out the truth about this place. The government doesn't acknowledge most of what happened there. Official records say the patients were happy. The nurses claim protocol was followed. But there are fewer than 10 survivors left who remember. They speak of being raped, beaten, drugged. Their accounts haunt them to this day. Most of the documentation has either been destroyed or buried. All I've found are whispers, hot and cold bath punishments, forced abortions, and staff treating humans like animals. Stories passed from mouth to mouth. Tales of babies buried in secret graves. Experiments. Even mentions of an orphanage hidden behind the main structure. And boats. People are being trafficked under the cover of night by the river's edge. A place this dark doesn't stay silent forever. The land remembers. Something wants to be seen, to be heard. And maybe it's trying through us, through those who visit. I even had to post my encounter on a subreddit forum, and one Reddit commenter said, "They've shown themselves to me. They've never hurt me. I want to help, but I don't want to endanger myself." I feel the same. I've seen things, felt things, but I don't dare go back now. Not alone. Story 6. My name's not important. I'm not trying to go viral. I'm not looking for attention. I'm just trying to make sense of something that's been sitting in my chest like a cinder block for almost 3 years now. Maybe telling it will help. Perhaps someone out there has seen what I saw. This happened in 2021. I had taken a side job as an overnight security guard at Rolling Hills Asylum. If you're from Western New York, you probably know the place. It started as a poorhouse in the 1820s, later became a sanitarium and infirmary, and then an asylum for the mentally ill. In the decades before it shut down in 1974, stories started leaking out. Patients chained to beds, electroshock therapy in tiled rooms with no windows, suicides in the attic, and staff who quietly disappeared. Classic horror movie stuff. But back then it was just called Tuesday. After it closed, the place was abandoned for a while. In the early 2000s, it was bought by a private owner and turned into a haunted attraction. Ghost tours, Halloween events, that kind of thing. A lot of people treated it like a joke. But when the doors closed for the season and the fog machines and actors went home, someone still had to keep an eye on the place. That's where I came in. My shift was 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 3 nights a week. I was mostly there to make sure no one broke in and to check the cameras. I was told not to worry about noises and to just stay in the front office unless something serious happened. The first 2 weeks were uneventful. Boring even. I'd bring a book, stream movies, and do my rounds every couple of hours. Occasionally the old pipes would bang, or I'd hear wind push through the loose shingles upstairs. The place was massive, over 60,000 square feet, but most of it had been gutted or sealed off. Still, the atmosphere at night was different. Heavy. The kind of quiet that has texture, if that makes sense. You could hear your own heartbeat in there. It was my 6th or 7th shift when things started to shift. Around 2 a.m., I was walking my usual patrol route, past the old kitchen, through the patient dorms, and toward the hallway they called the shadow corridor. The lights in that wing hadn't worked in years, but I had my flashlight. I didn't believe the ghost tour hype, but I did get an uneasy feeling in that part of the building. Like I was being watched even when the place was empty. That night, I got halfway down the corridor when I heard something, bare feet scuffing the concrete behind me. I turned around fast, thinking it might be a trespasser, but the hallway was empty. I swept it with my light. Nothing. I was about to turn back when I saw it, just for a second, out of the corner of my eye. A woman, standing at the far end of the hallway. She was barefoot, with what looked like a thin hospital gown hanging off her shoulders. Her head was tilted slightly. Not slumped, tilted as if she were studying me. Like I was the odd one out. I turned my light on her and... gone. Just gone. I sprinted back to the front desk and rewound the camera feed, but the camera down that hallway had glitched out around the same time. Just static. I didn't tell my supervisor. I figured maybe it was my eyes playing tricks on me. Long hours, a creepy place, and you start to see things. But then it happened again. About a week later, I got curious and started poking around the basement during one of my shifts. Most of it was storage, but one hallway was full of old metal doors bolted from the outside. Isolation cells. A few still had placards. One said, Room 12. That's the one that got me. Unlike the others, this door had scratch marks near the handle, deep gouges, through the metal. Inside, the walls were tiled, the ceiling stained with mold. And there, in the far corner, was a worn leather restraint chair bolted to the floor. It had belts for the wrists, ankles, and even the neck. All of them frayed as if they'd seen use. I didn't stay long. The smell in that room was sour, animal-like, but not rot, not mold. More like something wild had been kept in there. That night, when I got home, I dreamed about room 12. I was the one in the chair, and someone was slowly, methodically tightening the neck strap. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, and just as the leather cinched down against my windpipe, I woke up choking. I called in sick for a few nights after that. A few days later, a group of amateur ghost hunters arrived for a private overnight session. My job was to stay in the office and monitor just in case. Around 3 a.m., I got a call from one of them, some kid with too much gear and too little common sense. He asked me to come down to the basement because something happened with the EVP. They were using a spirit box, a device that rapidly scans radio frequencies, producing static noise that spirits are supposedly able to manipulate. I didn't believe in any of that, until I heard it. They played back a section of the audio. For the first minute it was just static and a few garbled words. Then a clear female voice came through. Whispered, "Guttural, don't leave me here." The kid laughed nervously as if it were all part of the fun. But the other two in the group looked disturbed. They said they hadn't heard that in real time, only on playback. When I asked them what room they were in when they got the recording, they pointed to the map. My stomach dropped. Room 12. My last night on the job wasn't supposed to be my last. But I never went back after what happened. It was January. Cold enough that your breath stuck to your scarf. I was doing one last round before sunrise, flashlight in hand, when the battery suddenly cut out. Pitch black. I reached for my backup light but dropped it, heard it clatter down a stairwell somewhere. And then, footsteps. Not mine. Not fast but deliberate. Coming down the hall toward me. I pressed myself against the wall, barely breathing. The sound got closer. Then it stopped. I don't know why I did it, but I turned toward the sound and whispered, "Hello?" Pause. Then, close to my ear, I heard a voice. "I remember you." That was it. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I just walked out of the building, keys still in hand, and kept walking. Past the parking lot, past the trees, all the way to the main road where I called an Uber. I didn't even go back for my car until 3 days later, during daylight. I still can't explain what I saw, or what I heard. Maybe it was a mix of stress, sleep deprivation, and the weight of that place's history. Or perhaps something else. I'm not here to convince anyone. I just needed to write this down. I still have dreams about room 12, but my therapist said it's paranoia. I don't think it's true 'cause I know what I saw. Story 7. Alright, so this happened last night. I live right next to this old mental hospital. It's been abandoned for years, but weirdly they still have the electricity hooked up and they pay a security guard to watch it. The outside is a mess, though, with overgrown weeds, broken pipes leaking water, paint peeling off, and windows cracked or boarded up. The whole place looks like it's falling apart. Usually there's a fence around it and the gate's locked. But last night, when I was heading back from grabbing some energy drinks at the corner gas station, because yeah, I'm a night owl, I noticed the gate was wide open. The guard's car? Gone. The security guard? No sign of him at the desk like usual. Naturally, I got curious. So I walked up to the front entrance, a big concrete building with glass doors under this brutalist concrete overhang. The doors were unlocked, and the guard's desk was empty. I was carrying my gun, so I figured, why not? I've always wanted to poke around that place. I stepped inside. The fluorescent lights were dim and flickering. It gave the whole place that spooky, abandoned vibe, the kind that sets your skin on edge. I put my stuff down on the guard's table and just looked around, thinking, what the hell am I even doing here? I've been inside a few mental hospitals before, so I know the general layout: reception, a set of double doors, then the main hospital behind that, plus staff corridors and offices. On the guard desk I found a key card. Weird, right? Why leave that there? I figured the guard had to be somewhere inside still, but there was no car outside and no sign of him around. I picked up the card, shrugged, and used it to open the double doors. As soon as I stepped through, the temperature dropped. It was like walking into a freezer. Outside it was about 72 degrees, but inside? Cold as hell. The AC was running full blast, humming loudly. It felt unnatural. I started exploring the rooms. I brought a flashlight because half the power was out. The rooms looked like something out of a nightmare. Hospital beds, faded sheets, and old nursing equipment still scattered on desks. I went upstairs, feeling like a real urban explorer at this point. The floors were weirdly clean, shiny, even like someone had just waxed them. The place smelled oddly fresh, but the cold was still biting. I found the thermostat in one of the staff offices and turned off the AC to save energy or whatever. Once it powered down, the humming stopped and silence settled in like a blanket. I stepped into the hallway with my flashlight and spotted another set of double doors. I know from experience that those led to the isolation wing, where they locked up the dangerous patients. Using the keycard, I opened them. The stench hit me instantly. It smelled like something rotten, like meat gone bad. I almost gagged but pushed on, covering my mouth with my shirt. Inside were a couple of tiny cells, dark and chilling. The last cell had nothing but a single piece of paper in the middle of the floor. I shone my light down and saw a circle drawn on it with a spiral inside. It felt wrong, like some kind of sick ritual. That's when I heard it. At first I thought it was the wind. It was a windy night after all, but then I heard a whisper. A real human whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like someone was right behind the wall. My hand instinctively went to my gun. I checked the room. The whisper seemed to come from just an empty bed with straps. I was done. I slammed those double doors shut behind me, and the feeling of relief was instant, like I just escaped a trap. Still feeling brave, I decided to check out the third floor. Smaller, fewer rooms, mostly offices and storage. The stairs were metal with a railing and echoed every step I took. My heart was pounding, but I was telling myself I was alone. That whisper had shaken me, but I was still curious. When I reached the third floor, I was poking around, ready to leave, when I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Footsteps coming up the stairs. My heart jumped. The security guard? Someone else? I froze and hid behind the corner. The footsteps got closer, and stopped on the landing just before the final stairs. I was sweating, my chest was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. Then, whatever was turned around and went back down the stairs. It never came up. I didn't wait around after that. I hurried down the stairs, flashlight off, moving silently through the dark. Back in the main day room, the smell was worse. Like the rotting meat smell from before had spread everywhere. It was choking. I covered my nose again and headed for the doors. Outside, the cold night air hit me like a wave. I looked back once. At the third floor window of one of the offices I was in, I swear I saw something move. Just a flicker of shadow, gone before I could blink. I don't know what I walked into last night, but whatever it was, it wasn't human. Jesus Christ, that was scary. We've come to the end of the series today, and if you made it this far, you're braver than most. These were just a few of the true experiences people have chosen to share, but we know there are more out there. Maybe even yours. If you've lived through something strange, something you can't explain, share it in the comments or just send me a direct email. We might feature your story next. And if you want more real, spine-chilling encounters just like these, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and share this video with someone who thinks they don't believe in ghosts. We post new terrifying true stories every week. Sleep light tonight.